Here again with another franchise ranking video as Scream 6 has finally came out, my most anticipated movie of 2023. I saw it last night on premiere night and I saw it again today, so it's time to re-rank the Scream franchise, all the movies in the Scream franchise, not including the 3 seasons of the TV show, which I did see the first 2 seasons of that show, but did not watch the last season they came out with, which was completely different than the first 2 seasons I heard. But before I get into my ranking, a few things you should know. I am a huge Scream fan. In fact, it's my favorite movie franchise of all time by far. And I love all these movies, even the ones that some would say are the worst ones are still enjoyable movies, in my opinion. So, with that said, this is going to be my opinion. We are going to disagree, except for me and T. Parker Evans. We have the same ranking, at least at the moment. Make sure you leave your ranking down in the comment section, as I know my favorite Scream movie is not your pick, most likely, for your favorite Scream movie. And I guess this goes without saying, but if you haven't watched every single Scream movie, including Scream 6 that just came out, there's going to be spoilers, so I suggest that you don't watch this video any further to avoid those spoilers. Now, my last Scream ranking video was like 40 plus minutes long, so I'm going to actually try to trim this down to 30 minutes, even adding one more movie. So I actually have bullet points to talk about here, just so I don't start rambling, because I talked about a certain Scream movie for about 10 minutes last time. So again, leave your ranking down in the comments section, subscribe to the channel, and of course, enjoy my ranking. So we have 6 movies in this franchise, and honestly, my number 6 and number 5 were actually very close, which was kind of surprising to me because this hasn't been the case before. And maybe on my next ranking of this franchise, my opinion will change. But currently, at the moment, in 6th place for me is going to be Scream 3. Again, I like all these movies. This, at the moment, is the one that I like the least. My cons for Scream 3. We have a lot of uninteresting characters like Tyson, Tom, Angelina, John Milton. Yes, Lance Henriksen is awesome, but not in this movie. He's not given nearly enough time. He's only got, what, 3 or 4 scenes in the movie with a total of about 5 minutes on camera, if even. Angelina, the Sydney for the stab movies, seems more like Gale to me, and she's just very unlikable and uninteresting and kind of weird, if you ask me. You have Sydney barely in the movie, and that's because Neve Campbell only could shoot for so many days, but of course it's a con because Sydney is one of the stars of the Scream franchise. We have subpar performances from Dewey and Gale. In my opinion, I don't like Dewey and Gale in this movie, except in the 3rd act. Everything before that, they're annoying and at points a little cringeworthy to me. And you may disagree with me, and that's fine. We all can have a different opinion. I just think they kind of phoned in their performance. And of course, the elephant in the room, Courtney Cox's bangs in this movie were not the best, but, you know, they did what they could do. Neve Campbell was limited on how much she could be on set. I think she was only allowed to film for 20 days due to her performance or her drowning Mona stuff, so I don't know. The movie spent way too much time trying to make us think that Mark Kincaid was one of the killers. He was a big red herring. There were so many scenes where you believe that Kincaid is probably a killer or one of the killers in this movie. Another negative, they killed Cotton Weary. I think they could have saved him for another movie and he could have been better utilized because we only really got Cotton Weary in Scream 2. In Scream, he's like archive footage for the most part. He's in there for like, what, a minute long? And then Scream 3, he's in the opening scene. He talks to the killer. That's kind of cool. But I think they could have done a lot more with Cotton Weary. He's one of the best characters in the Scream franchise. But we only really get one movie with him as one of the stars of the movie. And I think killing him off was a mistake in my opinion. But I like how it was done. I just would have rather have chosen a different character to kill off. And then we get this weird Maureen Prescott backstory that it works in the end. It sets up the third act, but it's just kind of weird. I understand that the movie went through different writers because Kevin Williamson had to lead the project because of delays in filming and because of Columbine. And we would have got a much different movie had he not left the project and had Columbine not happen, which I wish it wouldn't have happened. It's such a travesty, or a tragedy, I guess you could say. It was a different movie after Kevin Williamson left the project. We were supposed to get Stu back in this movie. But, of course, things changed, and we got a weird Maureen Prescott backstory. And I don't know if that was ever going to be a thing in Kevin Williamson's script. I highly doubt it. So those are my cons. Again, very uninteresting characters. A few, in my opinion, where Scream usually has a lot of good background characters. These ones were the worst, in my opinion. I did like Sarah Darling, played by Jenny McCarthy, but she doesn't get enough time by any means. My pros for Scream 3. Jennifer Jolie was pretty good. She did what she needed to do. I think, personally, she's a better Sidney, possibly. And Angelina Tyler, I think that was her name, Angelina Tyler, would have been a better Gale. She seemed more like Gale to me than Sidney, but that's just my opinion. And I think Stephen Stone, played by Patrick Warburton, was really good as well, although he doesn't get nearly enough time in the movie. Roman Bridger was a great reveal at the end because he was a death, we thought, as we saw his body in the casket. Now, I don't know if that was a mannequin or that was just him laying very still, but it was a good reveal in the third act. Now, when I first watched this movie in the theater at midnight in December of 2000, Roman was one of my chief suspects because they heard his voice and they wanted to take him down the station. I always suspect the people that the police look into in Scream movies from Scream in 2000 or 1996. So that was good. And Kincaid, while being the biggest red herring, was pretty good. And also his partner Wallace was really funny with the things that he says. I don't think we got enough time. We should have got more scenes with Wallace because he was really funny, especially the part where he's talking to Angelina about the stuff that she took from the studio because the set was closed. And he looks at Tyson and Tyson's like, "Don't look at me, I didn't take shit." Or "I didn't steal shit." It's funny in like the part where he's like 10 more murders and we can make a calendar. He just says, he has some really funny one-liners and I liked his character, although you really don't know his name half the time, but Wallace is good. And of course, Kincaid. So that's what I have to say about Scream 3. Coming in fifth place. Again, 6 and 5 were very close, but I'm going with Scream 4. A movie that the more I watch Scream 4, the less I kind of like it. Granted, I like the movie because it's a Scream movie, but it's going down on my list. Like, what I score it used to be a solid 8.5 out of 10, and now it's down to like a 7.5 out of 10. The cons for the movie, while Charlie, I think, was a good character, I think he was an absolutely horrible killer reveal, and a wimpy, whiny killer at that, and Jill handled him pretty easily. We have the weird fake out opening with all the different characters that was actually stab openings. The character of Judy Hicks, I cannot stand. One of my least favorite characters in any Scream movie. The annoying publicist, or whatever her role was for Sidney, I actually don't even remember her name. That's how bad. I just felt her being annoying. But hey, I thought she was annoying, but she gets killed off rather quickly. But we had to have all the time with her in the meantime. It's my least favorite Sidney performance. I think she's decent in the first or third act, but the rest of it, she's not all that great. In my opinion, I think it's the worst Sidney performance. You could disagree or agree with me. I know she's limited in Scream 3, but what we get from Sidney in Scream 3 was awesome. And I guess I didn't mention this in Scream 3. When I talked about Roman, I also put on there the third act overall with him and Sidney was unbelievable. I loved it. So going back on that. Again, continuing with cons for Scream 4, Gale and Dewey, another so-so performance in my opinion. I didn't like their performance in 3, and I think it was even worse in 4. Again, you can disagree with me. It's just my opinion. And the movie, like in Scream 3, they focus too much time on trying to make us think that Trevor was the killer. He's the red herring for Scream 4. And it's so many times. So those are the things that irritate me about Scream 4. My pros for Scream 4, which I really don't have many of them, but yet I rank it higher. Kirby was awesome. No doubt about it. Killing Kirby or making us think that Kirby's dead and not confirming if she's dead or alive, at least by the end of the movie, was annoying. But Kirby was an awesome character. Really liked her. Jill, while predictable as the killer, what she did to herself after the killer reveal was fucking spectacular, in my opinion. Robbie, while kind of quirky, was actually a fun character, in my opinion. He was funny. He did some funny stuff. And, hey, it was the first Scream movie in 11 years, so I put that down as a pro for the movie. I just couldn't think of very many positives about the movie. Like, the movie is slowly but surely dropping down my list, and I liked it when I first saw it. I loved it. While the killers were predictable. I knew Jill was the killer from when she got cut open, and she doesn't really know Sidney that well. Like, Sidney doesn't really know her that well. So I'm like, oh, this is some random family member. She's probably one of the killers. And sure as shit, she was right. And then I knew it was either Charlie or Robbie was the other killer. I just don't know who. Charlie was my first guess, and I turned out to be right. But I wasn't sure it was either him or Robbie. But I was thinking Charlie the whole time. So those were my thoughts on Scream number 4, a movie that currently sits in 5th place for me at this moment. In 4th place for me is going to be Scream 5. Otherwise known as Scream 2022 and Scream. My cons for this movie, killing Dewey in what was one of his best performances. It's tied with another movie that I'll talk about shortly here. Sam Carpenter, I didn't like her character at all. I don't know if it was just Sam Carpenter as the character or Melissa Barrera as an actress, but I could not stand that character in this movie. Killers, very predictable. I had them pegged pretty early on in the movie. Other than an Easter egg, we didn't get a Kirby scene or a Kirby confirmation, and a lot of people miss that very quick Easter egg when Richie is watching the YouTube video and the recommended video says something about Woodsboro survivor Kirby Reed. I caught that on my own. I told a lot of other people about that, but a lot of people had to find out by watching like a YouTube Easter egg Scream 5 video. Not enough deaths. We didn't have a Scream movie for 11 years. There should have been double the deaths in this movie. I was a little upset that they killed Wes off because I actually liked his character. We know why they killed Wes off for a specific reason, but I like Dylan Minnette as an actor, and I was kind of hoping he would stick around, and there was a thought in my head that he might be the killer because he's the one that called Sam to tell her, hey, Tara's hurt, we need you to come into town. But didn't turn out to be him. And, of course, the killer reveal, not only were they predictable, the reveal was kind of weak, in my opinion, although it worked out. I think the Amber reveal was kind of lame, just if you ask me. The pros for Scream 5. We have a very good performance from Sidney, despite her not being in the film that long. Not her best performance by any means. They killed Judy Hicks off. I hate that character. I never liked Judy Hicks in Scream 4 because I thought she was really weird and creepy. and they kill her off in Scream 5. And that actually made me very happy, and they did it in daylight, which was freaking awesome. Jenna Ortega as Tara killed it in this movie. She did phenomenal. I don't like how short she is, but hey, whatever. I can diss her for her height. I'm a monster, height and weight-wise, but Jenna Ortega, despite how tiny she is, she killed it with her acting ability in this film. And Mindy Meeks was a great Randy / Kirby character. Actually, I think it's Mindy Meeks Martin, if I recall. So yeah, she was amazing. I really liked her character. There are some people that don't like her character. I enjoy her quite a bit. And then a pro, which I also put as a con, killing Dewey. I think it's good for the movie that they had a major character death because it makes the movie very memorable. We get the return of Billy Loomis as a hallucination, but still something that I did not know was going to happen, and I really enjoyed that. Great voice acting by Roger L. Jackson in this movie. I don't think enough is said about that. He did awesome in the conversation that he had with Tara. Because in Scream 4, with all those and that beginning that we get, he just sounds like different in Scream 4. And it's back to the Roger L. Jackson that we know, which I've met Roger L. Jackson and David Arquette and Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich and Neve Campbell and Elise Neal, who played Hallie, Sid's roommate in Scream 2. Probably other people. Jamie Kennedy. So yeah, I really, really liked that voice acting by Roger L. Jackson. And the last thing for a pro for Scream 5, the tribute to the Wes character. Obviously, this is them paying tribute to Wes Craven, which I think was pretty awesome. So that's why Scream 5 currently sits as my number 4. In third place for me, again, spoiler alert, is going to be Scream 6. My cons, a little bit of a far-fetched killer reveal with all the things that had to take place and the variables behind it. We have a lot of serious injuries to characters, but they still survive. For example, Chad, which I'm actually happy he survived. That's another story. Kirby, Mindy, and then to a lesser extent, Tara and Sam. And then we also had Anika, who does die, but initially she gets stabbed in the stomach and Ghostface raises, twists and turns the knife and then goes up her abdomen, and she should have theoretically died instantly from that, but yet she's trying to crawl on a ladder to another building, but then gets tipped off the ladder. But that was crazy, but a lot of people get hurt and lived. It's plot armor, and it's a little bit annoying, but hey, I'm happy Chad survived, because I was going to be furious if they killed him off, and there's a lot of reasons why that would have been. Ethan, way too predictable. I called Jack Champion being one of the killers before the trailer even came out. Before I heard anything about the movie, I just looked at the cast list. You can kind of look at the list of people that are in the movie and depict who's going to be the killer. And that was one that I called out before I even saw a trailer of the film. Gail didn't even write a book about Dewey. She did what she usually does, and that's kind of disappointing. Danny, the hot guy, Sam's boyfriend, his acting, I don't think was very good. No Stu, but we do get a mention of Stu. Kirby's an FBI agent now all of a sudden, but not a very good one. And of course, no Sidney is a con, but in my opinion, I actually like that there was no Sidney in this movie. Our pros, Sam and Tara were great. Melissa Barrera was phenomenal in this movie. Her character did a complete 180 for me in this movie. Gail getting hit in the face again by Tara. Gail went back to the old Gail in this from like Scream 2, and I loved that. The Ghostface shrine was freaking awesome, and all the things in that shrine, and the fact that I'll get into that a little bit later, but that whole shrine, that Ghostface cave of sorts, that was awesome. Brutal Ghostface kills. Again, I talked about this. No Sidney Prescott in this movie, but they do mention her, of course. They mention every single Ghostface killer from previous movies, and I really, really dug that. Quinn is alive to fool us because we thought Quinn died, to throw us off of her being a suspect, which she ends up being one of the killers. The different opening was really cool, where they kill Samara Weaving's character, the character of Jason, goes back to his house, and we find out that he's kind of a Ghostface, and then our badass Ghostface kills him, and it was just freaking awesome. The ladder to the buildings was actually cool and different. And then my last pro, which was also a con to a degree, we got Kirby back. She's alive, although she should have died in this movie too. I don't necessarily like Kirby as much in this movie because it's a different Kirby, but hey, I'm glad that Kirby's back. And that's why currently Scream 6 is my number 3. This movie could go up. As a matter of fact, I'll be completely honest. I almost put this movie at number 2. That's how much I liked this movie upon my initial watch. My rewatch of it, it went down slightly enough where I said, okay, my number 1 and number 2 are going to be the same. I'll put Scream 6 at number 3 with the possibility at some point of this movie going up my ranking. But like I said, as it stands right now, Scream 6, after watching it twice, is my number 3. Coming in second place for me, get ready to cancel me if you don't know me already, is going to be Scream. Like I just said, it almost came in third place. I love this movie. Don't get me wrong. It's a 10 out of 10. I just like another movie a little bit more. My cons for Scream: Billy, very predictable as a killer. Slow middle of the movie, in my opinion. And in my opinion, not the best performances from Neve Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox. Of course, it's their first Scream movie. I just don't like their performances. Those are really my only cons of the movie. But I don't have a lot of pros either. Stu and Tatum were amazing in this movie. Randy was also good, but I don't think he was at his best in this movie. We have a great opening kill, an opening scene with Drew Barrymore playing Casey Becker, having this conversation with the killer, and then just what transpires. We get some amazing dialogue and a phenomenal final act between Sidney, Billy, and Stu. I don't like anything with Gail and Dewey in the final act. Personally, I think they should have kept Dewey dead because he was not good in Scream, in my opinion. I just like another movie better. This is an all-time classic. I don't dispute that. I just think maybe over time the movie, and it's never been my favorite in this franchise, and it might have something to do with I watched this movie a week before I saw my number 1 opening night in the theater. So I don't know. I've always liked that one better. Maybe someday, my opinion will change. But as it stands right now, you're canceling me because my number 2 is Scream. And my favorite movie in the Scream franchise, and I'm not the only one, T. Parker Evans, and at least the last time I checked, Justin at Ryan 1988's favorite Scream movie is going to be Scream 2. I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. It is the first Scream movie that I saw in the theaters on opening night in 1997. Like I said before, I saw the original Scream movie like a week. Maybe it was 2 weeks or somewhere in that amount of time that I saw that movie and then saw Scream 2. And I absolutely loved it. It was a great theater experience as well. My cons for Scream 2. Yes, there are some cons. The scenes with Sydney in her drama class with the play Cassandra and the drama teacher, I could have lived without all that. I found that all boring and like slowed the movie down. Killing Randy, that sucked. The camera kept panning on the shoes or boots that characters were wearing to give us red herrings. How the killer knew that Phil Stevens or Omar Epps' character would go in that bathroom stall so he could stab him in the ear. And then those boring, lame FBI agents that ended up following Sydney around should have been fleshed out more as characters, so we could have potentially thought they were red herrings or the killer, because the only thing we really find out about them is what Sydney tells Hallie before Derek sings, "I think I love you, but what am I so afraid of?" I think we should learn more about those guys to make them feel more important, so we might think they are suspects. Now, the pros for Scream 2, and I'm not going to talk about a lot of them, because I actually think I'm going to do another video specifically talking about why I like Scream 2 over Scream. So that's why I'm purposely going over these two films rather quickly. I think it's a great killer reveal. I didn't guess the killers in this one. I don't know. Maybe I didn't have enough smarts yet at that time, but I did not guess either Mickey or Debbie Salt. I should have saw it coming. I did guess Billy Loomis, and I thought Stu might have something to do with it. And then towards the end, or not towards the end, in the third act, once Sydney gets attacked in that cop car and gets out of there, and then we see Stu coming and Randy coming, I knew Stu was the killer, but it took me a while to find out. But it was a great killer reveal. Awesome side characters in this movie. We have Cece, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. We have Derek, played by Jerry O'Connell. You have the classroom scene that features Josh Jackson. You have Mickey, played by Timothy Olyphant, who I absolutely love. He turns out to be a killer, but he's fucking awesome. You have Portia Del Rossi and Rebecca Gayheart as the two stupid sorority girls. They served their purpose in the movie. Hallie, Sid's roommate, she was funny at times. You have Joel, the cameraman. As a matter of fact, I put him specifically as a pro. I really liked Joel, the cameraman. I thought he added a lot to the movie. A lot of the humor, like, I need something a little bit more Saved by the Bell-ish, which I'm a huge fan of Saved by the Bell. Well, at least I was back in the day. Now it's the new stuff they came out with isn't that good, but I love Joel, the cameraman. We have, in my opinion, excellent performances by Sydney, Gale, and Dewey. I think this is Sydney's best performance or Neve Campbell's best performance as Sydney Prescott. I think this is the best performance by far from Gale Weathers, played by Courtney Cox. And this is a pretty good performance by David Arquette as Dewey, although I will give Scream 5 that Dewey is very good for how much time he has in Scream 5. Cotton Weary also had a great performance in this movie. And then there's comedy. I kind of mentioned Joel already as my eye itches. Did you get that on film? Yes, I got that on film. Love that part. The awesome classroom scene with Mickey and Cece and Randy, you know, talking about movie quotes, and I love that. Randy's call with the killer is fucking awesome. Now, what happens to Randy sucks, and I did not see that coming, but the call he has with the killer before that happens, before Debbie Salt gets knife happy, was freaking amazing. The scene with Randy and Dewey going over the suspects, I think that was really good. And then just in general, the dialogue in this movie alone, I absolutely love it. It's my favorite Scream movie. You know, honestly, I'll be honest with all of you. Scream 1, I'm watching it more and more, and it's creeping up. It's getting close to Scream 2. And, of course, my love for Scream 6 as it stands. But Scream 2 is my favorite Scream movie. So let me know what you think in the comments section. I know you're not going to disagree with me unless it's Justin or T. Parker. Maybe Justin's changed his mind. He probably has. But I want to know all your rankings, even if I've already called you out on this video, just so everybody else can officially see. Smash that like button to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, especially if you're a Scream fan, because this is my favorite franchise of all time. Share the video with anybody you know that likes Scream. Put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Like I said, I want you to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are. I want to see your ranking and what you want to happen in Scream 7. And I think I'm going to do a separate video on that. I don't know for sure if that's been 100% greenlit, but I'm sure it's going to be. And I have some thoughts for what I want to happen in Scream 7. We need clarification if Stu Macher is alive or dead. I will say that. We need to get 100% proof that he's dead, or we need to see him in a scene alive. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button or I'll gut you like a fish. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will be right back.